If you're ready to harness the power of your communications data, blast off with Nylas today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Coding with Nylas. On this live stream, we talk about APIs, building with the Nylas, communication APIs, programming languages, events, and hackathons, which we've been doing a lot of, and as well other things. My name is Ram, and I'm a developer advocate at Nylas.
Hi, I'm Black, Senior Developer Advocate here at Nylas.
Blog, how you been?
Kind of better. I mean, the allergy coming, going, but at least I can breathe a little bit more.
Okay.
So that's an improvement.
That's a good thing. I know something's been going around, so hopefully everyone's feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
And we will jump into our topic very soon. So today we're going to cover how to connect users using the Nylas User Authentication Flow. So this is something we've touched on in the past. We've looked at ways you can do it. We'll jump a bit into the code as well to see how we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I want to talk about Hacktoberfest.
Cool.
So let me share my screen and let's talk about what's going on for Hacktoberfest. What have we done so far? What's going on our GitHub repo? So I think we have 4 closed PRs so far. So that's great. We have a lot of developers going in and building using our beta version of our API, which is awesome.
Yep.
And I think we have about 4 open PRs right now as well. So we do have more contributors coming in. I think this number may have gone up since I made this.
Mm-hmm.
And as well, we have 6 open issues. So I'm really hoping that we can close out all these tickets and PRs within the next week. So we only have just under 2 weeks left for Hacktoberfest. And I really love to kind of see us progress this forward and hopefully get all those PRs through for Hacktober. So again, Hacktoberfest wraps up October 31st. And we'd love to see all your PRs. I know Blog's been awesome going through the PRs and reviewing them. I'm also working with some developers to help them through the PRs. Oh, there we go. We got a thumbs up.
Yeah, you can pop it, I think.
Oh, okay. All right, we're going to talk about one more thing before we jump into today's topic, and that is going to be API World. So I will be doing a talk at API World next week, and the talk's going to be about how to leverage the combination of generative AI and APIs. So that's going to be in California, in Santa Clara, and it's going to be great to kind of meet with developers, connect with developers, and learn about what everyone else is doing in the world of APIs and AIs. And we're going to talk a bit about what Nylas has been doing in the world of AI and how you can take advantage of the Nylas APIs to build AI functionality. So that's next week, October 24th to 26th. And the talk that I'm doing will be on the October 26th.
Nice.
Yeah, so we have a lot going on. But let's jump into today's topic, which I think is really interesting. And I know it can be very challenging for developers to figure out authentication flows because there's definitely a lot going on with an authentication flow. And how I want to approach this is I want to do an overview of the different steps for authenticating a user. And the focus here is once you've authenticated a user, you want to connect to their email account or their calendar, and you want to go through and do that with Nylas. So what are the steps for you to go ahead and do that? So you can actually start building features or giving them access to features that use their email, calendar, and contacts. So we'll do an overview. We'll look at a few demos, a few ways you can try this out and test this out. And then we'll just look at code. So we'll look at a few code snippets on like how you can build out this functionality into your application.
Nice.
So let's first jump into an overview. So let me share my screen. And we have 6 steps here. So at the top where it says mobile web application, think about this as your own application that you're building.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a user that comes into your application and they want to do something with their email, calendar, or contact. So you could actually connect the user as soon as they authenticate into your application or as soon as they create an account. But say you're adding Nylas later on into your application, or you only want users to access Nylas in certain scenarios. So the step 1 here is on the front end, there's some user interaction. So the user clicks the button connect. So they want to connect their account. And then the next step, which we're going to look at a code sample for, is we have to generate a URL to send them to so they can actually go through the Nylas authentication flow. So Nylas has built out this UI for you that you can take advantage and use off the shelf for connecting your users to Nylas. So that's really our step 3, which I'll show you in a demo in terms of what does the Nylas authentication flow look like. And then and then once a user kind of picks or enters their email, picks their provider, and goes through all of that UI, we're going to drop them into the actual service provider. So there may be a Gmail, maybe a Google Calendar, or even a Microsoft Exchange. They'll go through that authentication flow, and then we send the user back to your backend. And the reason we do this is we're going to give you a token, or the provider will give you a token that you need to exchange for the access token. So the provider will give you an exchange code or a code that you can use to request an access token, where you're like, hey, I got this code from you. Can I get the access token for this user? Now, once you have the access token, you're pretty much ready to go. So your user is connected. You can use that access token to access the user's information, the specific information you requested permission for. And then you kind of go back to your front end, and your user's able to build out, or your user's able to access certain features that take advantage of your emails, your calendars, and your contacts.
Yep, pretty well explained.
Yeah, so this is kind of the steps that we normally go through when we do authentication. And maybe let me jump over to the browser. So I'm going to go to the browser, and here I already have an account. So I've already logged in. So I'll just go to the overview. And one way you can test out authenticating a user is all you have to do is when you view all accounts, you can actually connect an account. And what this connect account button does is actually takes you through the Nylas authentication flow.
Yeah.
So these are all the configurations that you would need to provide. And in our case, we're using our sandbox environment. So we have access to all the users' permissions, or all that we essentially have access to all the users' data. And that's kind of what's represented here in the different scopes that we provide. So all we have to do is go ahead and type in our email. So I'll use my work email. And we're going to use our own account. We're going to select all the scopes, and we're going to click connect. And this is actually sending you to the Nylas hosted authentication, or the Nylas authentication flow. So this is the UI that we've built for you. If you want to build your own custom UI, you can go ahead and do that. And that would be, you would essentially have to build out your own authentication flow at that point. But for now, when you're building your application or you start integrating with Nylas, why not take advantage of the UI that we provide, which is very straightforward. And it allows you to sign in with any different provider. So you can go ahead and click select a different provider if you want. In our case, we're just going to sign in with Google. And since I'm already authenticated and logged in, it's going to log me in right away. Oh, there we go. Let me go back. And so it's already logged me in right away. And one thing I'm going to do is, since I've kind of shown my token, my access token, I'm just going to disconnect my account. So this access token will not be available to anyone that wants to access it during the video or after the video. But I just want to show you how quickly it was to actually go through the hosted authentication flow using the Nylas dashboard. So let me just refresh to make sure I can see all my accounts. So actually, I'm just going to go back here to log in. To go to the dashboard, I'm going to go to my accounts. And you can see that I don't have that account there anymore. And I just took it off for the reasons that I didn't want to expose the access token, which is something you generally don't want to share. So that's already been removed. But there is another way that we can actually look at getting closer to building out the Nylas user authentication flow. And the best way to do that is, let me just do one quick thing. I have to set up my account. So I'm just going to hop off for a second. And I just need to set up my account for accessing the quick start guides. I'm just going to do that quickly. And now we're just going to jump back into the screen. And I just want to show you on the left side the navigation for quick start guides. So once you go to quick start guides, these are code samples that walk you through how to use Nylas. And we've also built in our authentication flow into our quick start guides. So here's an example application of reading and sending an email. And the first thing you'll have to do to access this application is you need to connect the user's account using the actual Nylas user authentication flow. So I'm going to jump over to my terminal. So let me jump back and let me see where I can find My terminal. So in my terminal, I've already downloaded the Quick Start Guide. So I have the Quick Start Guide for read and send emails, and this is in the Node programming language. So I'm just going to start the backend and front end. And we provide all the steps to get started in the actual Quick Start Guide. So I'm not going to go through that all here. But this is essentially what it will look like. So let me jump back to the browser, and I'm going to bring over the Quick Start Guide. Blog, let me know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yep, okay. So here is actually what the Quick Start Guide looks like. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to put in my email address. And I'm going to connect my email. And this is going through the same hosted authentication flow that we already saw on the dashboard. So we're taking advantage of what's already built out for us by Nylas. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And this is what the next step is, where it's actually asking you to continue and which account you want to select. And then once you do this, it's going to show you all the permissions that you need to provide. And in our case, we've only requested the email, read and send email permissions, or the scopes for emails. So this is all that Nylas is requesting on our behalf. So so Nylas can access this information and show us a fully functional UI with all the email functionality that we need. And we've covered this in a previous video where we've gone through how to set up your Google account, how to set up your Microsoft account. So we won't do a deep dive on this, but I'll highlight where we need to define the scopes when we look at the code. So here we're just going to click through to allow, and now I've actually accessed my email account. And once I click refresh, I'll start seeing all my emails. And you can see Blog and I have been messaging and emailing quite a bit today. But this is a fully functioning app taking advantage of the Nylas API, and we are able to connect the user using the Nylas User Authentication Flow.
Yeah, which is pretty convenient, by the way. I have used it a lot of times on my demos, and it's just great and simple to be able to authenticate the user and just access their information. That's amazing.
Yeah, so we went through an overview. We looked at a few demos. We're going to look at the code walkthrough. But before we jump in, Blog, did you want to take this one?
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click on the little bell to get notified. Like our videos, subscribe. So the more subscribers we got, the better for us. So just go ahead and like. Touch puppet. That's a puppet still. Looks nice.
I think I still have to set that up. But yeah, please go ahead, like and subscribe. We see our subscriber count growing on YouTube, so we love seeing that. And we definitely want it to continue to grow as we make more videos in the future. But now let's jump into a code walkthrough. So I want to highlight two pieces of code that are going to be interesting for doing the Nylas user authentication flow, or for connecting a user account. So I'm actually going through the code for our Quick Start Guide. So this is available on GitHub, but you can also download this as well. And the first place I want to start is essentially we're taking advantage of the Nylas SDK. And here what we're doing is we're saying, hey, Nylas, can we get, hey, Nylas, can we get a URL for authentication? So this is where we want to generate a URL for our user. And you can see we're taking in the email as the login hint. So this is going to be the email that we've provided of the user. And as well, we have a redirect, so where to go when the authentication is successful. And I'll show you that endpoint shortly. And this was the thing I started mentioning towards the end when we looked at the authentication flows, that we need to specify the scopes or permissions that we're requesting for the user. And in our case, we're going to request the email modify and the email send permissions. And these are all available from the actual Nylas SDK. So you can import them from the Nylas SDK, and we've done that at the very top. So scopes are they here? Let me just click on this quickly. Yeah, so scopes are actually available from the actual Nylas SDK. So you can use the scopes from the Nylas SDK whenever you need to specify specific scopes. So you don't have to put them input them as text or string variables.
Cool.
So now that we've done this is essentially the step that I was showing you. So let me just kind of go to that quickly, to that image. So the step we were looking at is step 2. So the user's gone ahead and clicked on connect, and now we're on step 2, where we've generated an authentication URL. So the next thing we're going to look at is what happens after they've gone through, they've connected their account, and now they're sent back to the backend. So the next thing we're going to look at is what happens after they're sent back to our backend. We're essentially given a token or a code that we need to exchange. So we're going to, again, use the Nylas SDK. We're going to exchange the code for a token. And the idea here is we get a temporary token that expires relatively quickly, and we need to get an access token for the user. So we take this token, we pass it into the Nylas functionality for exchange code for token. And what we get back is an access token. And if I go back to the diagram, this is essentially step 5 over here. So the backend, we exchange a code for an access token. And then at that point, we have access to the user's communication data, such as their emails, their calendars, or contacts. In the example we've been talking about, right now we have access to their emails using that access token.
Yep.
And then from there, it's really up to us to decide what we want to do. Ideally, you want to store the access token securely within a database so you can use it and look it up anytime you need. And as well, at some point, you may even need to refresh the access token. So that's something to keep in mind, that if, for example, your user changes their password or does anything outside of your application, it may impact how you're connected to the user's account. But in this case, we already have the access token, and now we can start connecting to their communication data.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was a code walkthrough of just going through the Nylas User Authentication Flow, looking at how we can experiment and try out the authentication flow. So we used the dashboard to connect a user. We used the quick start guides to connect a user. And as well, we got a chance to go through a code walkthrough of the functionality that we need. So we essentially need 2 different parts where we need to generate a URL that contains the emails, the permissions that we're requesting, and where to go after the user is successfully authenticated. And then as well, we need a URL for after they've authenticated, we need to exchange that code or that token for an access token so we can start connecting to the user's data.
Awesome.
Yep. That's pretty much all I had. Blog, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, well, just to mention that we do have live streams every Wednesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. And
Awesome.
So next week, it's going to be kind of different. We're not going to do a live stream on Wednesday. It's going to be on Tuesday for the first time ever. Yes, because we're going to announce the winners of the Nylas and AI Hackathon. Yeah. We have a winner. We have 5 runner-ups. So what we're going to do on Tuesday was going to go from, not say last, but from like number 5 until number 1.
Okay.
Or actually 6, right? Because it's, yeah.
So we're going to go through the runner-ups, and then we're going to go through the winner.
Yes.
Okay, that is cool.
The grand winner.
Nice. That is exciting. I'm looking forward to that as well. It was nice to kind of go through and look at the projects and all the different demos and the videos. So I'm excited to see that wrap up next week.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Great projects.
Awesome. Well, we will, if there's nothing else, Blog, we will see you all next week on Tuesday.
Awesome. Perfect. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Take care.